There comes a point in every transformation where the struggle feels heavier than anything you've faced before. The air grows thick, the silence grows loud, and it feels as though the darkness has wrapped itself around you. It's easy to mistake this for being lost, for believing you've wandered too far from the path. But in truth, this is the sign that you are close. The last stage before a breakthrough never feels like ease. It feels like war. Life rises up with its sharpest tests, not to destroy you, but to see if you are ready to step into the next version of yourself. The first sign is the unmistakable loneliness that comes before change. You can be surrounded by familiar faces, sitting in crowded rooms, and still feel a distance growing between you and the rest of the world. At first, you might think it's sadness. But it isn't sadness, it's instinct. Something deep within you begins to pull you away from the noise, from the shallow exchanges, from the need to justify yourself to others. You no longer feel the urge to explain why you believe what you believe, why you choose what you choose, because you realize this weight is yours to carry, and no one else could carry it for you even if they wanted to. This isolation is often misunderstood. To others, it looks like withdrawal. To you, it feels like purification. It strips away the distractions, the habits that kept you numb, and the relationships that were built on convenience rather than depth. And in the silence that remains, you are left with your truest self, the raw and unpolished version of you that you were always meant to meet. People will notice the distance. They'll sense the shift. Some will resent it, some will call it arrogance, and some will quietly fade away. But the truth is, you are no longer who you were. You are becoming someone they may not recognize. The second sign is the restless urge to let go of what no longer fits your spirit. There comes a moment where pretending is no longer possible. You can't force yourself into conversations that feel hollow, can't drag yourself through a job that drains your soul, can't keep chasing goals that belong to someone else's dream. Even your own lies stop working. You feel an almost physical sickness when you try to live as you once did. And that sickness is not confusion, it is clarity breaking through. You are not lost. You are shedding. Old versions of yourself fall away like skin, and though it is uncomfortable, it is necessary. The world, however, does not understand this process. People will say you're reckless, accuse you of giving up, whisper that you've changed. And they're right, you have. Growth demands change. Real growth is terrifying because it strips you of identities you once relied on and pushes you into a future without guarantees. But that's the nature of evolution, it forces you to leave the cage behind, no matter how safe or comfortable it seemed. And if you find yourself clawing at the walls, desperate for air, it's not because you're failing. It's because your spirit is alive and refuses to be contained. The third sign comes quietly, but it's the most powerful of all. You begin to notice that destructive emotions no longer own you. Anger still rises, but it doesn't chain you down. Fear may approach, but it no longer dictates your choices. Sadness washes over you, but you watch it pass like clouds drifting across a mountain peak. You start to see that emotions are visitors, not rulers. They knock, but they don't have to be invited in. They enter, but they don't have to stay. For the first time, you feel the truth of what the Stoics meant when they said you cannot control outside events, only your own mind. And in that truth, there is a freedom more profound than anything you've known before. This stage of transformation can feel like destruction, like losing yourself, losing others, losing the ground beneath your feet. But in reality, nothing essential is being lost. What falls away are the illusions, the masks, the cages you once thought were necessary for survival. What remains is stronger, clearer, and closer to the essence of who you really are. The heaviness, the silence, the breaking, none of it is a sign of failure. It is proof that you are standing at the edge of a vast breakthrough, and though the final test feels unbearable, it is the mark of how close you truly are. You are beginning to see the storm differently. Once, it swallowed you whole. Once, it felt like chaos, like punishment, like the end of everything you knew. But now, you're starting to see it from above, to step outside of it, and what once looked like destruction now begins to look like training. Pain no longer stands in front of you as the enemy. It has taken off its mask, and you see it for what it really is, the teacher that has been shaping you in ways comfort never could. All your life you've been pulled by your emotions. They've dragged you into battles you didn't choose. They made you lash out at people you loved, made you shut down when you needed to speak, made you drown when you most needed to breathe. You thought they owned you. But now something has shifted. Stillness has entered your life. A stillness that doesn't mean weakness, but power. You no longer jump at every feeling that rises inside you. You watch them. You let them pass. You see them for what they are, visitors, not rulers. And that is dangerous, because nothing is more unsettling to the world than a person who has learned to master himself. Stillness is terrifying to those who've never met it. A man who no longer begs for validation cannot be bent. A man who doesn't seek permission can no longer be controlled. This is why you feel chaos within you now. It is the breaking of the old world inside you. Everything you once clung to, every identity you wore, every false sense of safety is beginning to collapse. It feels heavy. It feels unbearable. But understand this. It is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the noise before silence, the resistance before release, the fire before light. Every birth begins with pain. Every breakthrough begins with struggle. What you are feeling is proof that something new is being born through you. If you're exhausted, if your body feels weighed down, if you've been walking alone in silence, know that it's not because you've failed, it's because you're being prepared. When you start saying no without guilt, when you no longer bow to things that drain your soul, when you begin to withdraw from the noise of the world, that is not weakness. That is purification. It means the illusions are burning away. It means your spirit has chosen truth over comfort. Yes, people will notice. They will call you cold. They will call you distant. They will say you've changed. And they are right, you have. You are no longer the person they once knew, because that person was chained. That person was asleep. One day, the same voices that doubted you will call you unbreakable. One day, they will look at you and wonder how you endured the fire without losing yourself. And on that day, you will understand what this pain was all for. You will see that you never broke, you broke through. Every tear, every night spent alone, every storm you carried in silence was not the end of your story, but the forging of your strength. So let them sleep. Let them stay blind in their comfort. We rise. And if you're hearing this now, in your shadows, it isn't by accident. Some of us were never meant to follow the noise. Some of us were built for silence, for endurance, for rising when no one is watching. Some of us were called to master the war within, because the world outside can only be faced once the inner battle is won. If you feel the fire in you burning hotter than before, don't ignore it. That is your sign. That is the call. This is not the time to wait for motivation or for someone to save you. This is the time to forge discipline, to sharpen yourself in the dark, to train while the world sleeps. Because when the silence lifts and the light breaks through, you will no longer be the same. You will be unshakable. You will be untouchable. And you will finally see the truth: the storm never came to break you. It came to build you.